Here we go, first episode of everything you need to know about lifting a Y62 Patrol. These are all the different coils you can put in a Y62, and you have to put an airbag in each one of them. But before we say which one you should put in which car, let's take a step back and why you need to put airbags in a car to start with. So most typical four-wheel drives have a solid axle, like this one here, 300 series, it's had a BMW GVM upgrade, this one. And it's quite simple when you talk about a suspension with just one axle. These Y62 Patrols are far from, the thing that holds the wheel on isn't just one beam that goes across. I'll show you. All right, we're underneath the Y62 Patrol now, and here's the diff. Going from the diff to the wheel is a drive shaft, and that goes through here, through CV joints. Now, to hold everything together, we've got three arms to talk about. This rear lower arm, a front rear lower arm, and then, put my hand in back here, this is a rear upper arm. All of these move independently, and you can adjust them from these bolts here and around the place to where the wheel is going to locate, whether it's going to be straight up and down, towing in, or cambering. Look at this wheel here. All right, so you can see this wheel, it's like leaning in like that. And that's because we've lifted the vehicle. And whenever you change the weight, it's almost like you're lifting a vehicle on a hoist here. You put heaps of extra weight in, and the wheel does this, take the weight out, it does that and leans over. So these are all called camber, caster, and tow. And all of those three arms are going to change every time you change weight in the vehicle, which happens as little as filling up with the fuel, putting 6 people in the car, or adding, all your towable weight, for example. First of all, you're going to need to choose the right spring to match the weight of the vehicle. So if you've added a rear bar into a car, you've got to choose X spring. If you want to keep it standard height, use another type of spring. And there's a whole array of different springs that we can use. And springs will help you with your bolted mass. But for unbolted mass, that's when we need airbags. And that's what's going to give you back that extra spring rate and height for the unbolted mass that goes in the car. Now we're talking about, specifically your towable weight, that carton of beer, or 6 people that are going to go into the vehicle. The different types of airbags change quite a bit too. Look at the size. This is a standard Y62 coil, how big it is, and that's what a standard height airbag looks like in there. There's a fair bit of room at the top and bottom, but it gets squashed down, and there's some blocks that go underneath, which will be like that, like that, to make up the size in between. Now, you especially see this on the forums, on Facebook and so forth. I just want to put airbags into my standard listening coils because I tow a caravan. That is okay, but I would say that it's probably only okay if you've got, 150 kilos or less on your tow ball, because the coil isn't thick, the standard thickness coil isn't thick enough to basically support the airbag in any application heavier than that. And you'll find what will happen is absolute worst case, and you'll see I've done a video previously on catastrophic failures of airbags where they can explode, but more likely you just lose height, and therefore you'll lose wheel alignment because that wheel will be doing this or this, like I was showing previously. If we have a quick measure here, like this is the standard coil, it's getting, it's about 19.5 millimeters, compared to dash tow coil, which is, if I get this properly, more like 22.5 millimeters. So what builds spring rate is free height, how many wraps is in there, and then wire thickness. There's been a lot of effort into all these brands of coils to get it just right for the correct application. But if you use the wrong coil in the wrong application, you're going to have a bad result. So if you're going to go to the effort of putting an airbag into a standard height coil, upgrade the coil too, because then you can go up to 250 kilograms towable weight with that combination. So this is a Airbag Man 119, perfect for standard application, up to 60 psi. Next we'll talk about lifted applications, or if you want to go more than 250 kilograms on the ball. And I'll repeat, if you do have a caravan that is over 250, 300, even more than that on the ball, you cannot just put standard height airbags into your Y62 OM coil. You can't even put it into our dash tow coil. If you've got over 250 kilos, you need to go to a different combination. So it's a different wire thickness, different amount of wraps, designed to suit that weight need. Otherwise, you're going to get those consequences I talked about earlier. To give you an idea, actually this is quite interesting. This is a Nissan Warrior coil. If I get the verniers on this one, it's 20 millimeters. It's not that dissimilar to the black OEM ones. The difference is it's progressive rate. So see down the bottom here, it's got all these coils wrapped up. Actually, they're so close together, they call it progressive. For lack of a better term, I'm going to call this ring jam. It doesn't work. It's like having might as well be a house brick at the bottom, and you've got this massive gap in the middle. Like, where's my prop here? You know, this is a coil that supports an airbag well because the gaps in between are small. This is the standard one, working. That's actually closer to that one. This is the Warrior coil. It's like loosey-goosey. I would not put an airbag in that coil. It's not suitable, and I don't know why Nissan thinks that this is a better tow coil, because it's not. Put it in the bin, get something else. There's better options out there. Next, let's have a look at these airbags. I'll leave them on the bench here so you can see the height difference. That is a standard height vehicle coil. You will see some companies actually put like a block under here and call it a 2-inch lifted coil. I don't believe in that. When you do that, it increases the spring rate, sure, but we see it fails to get the height back because the coil over squashes it. Really, you need a bigger airbag. So one like this, we nicknamed them jumbos. The part number's 172 HP, but they are significantly taller. Same circumference, but they're significantly taller for lifted applications. And when I say lifted, that's anything bigger than standard. So 40, 50, 60 mil lift, that's what you would use. And there's some different options too. The way that these airbags are made up, traditionally like a poly air, like this one, will have a nipple that protrudes the airbag and you put a clamp on it. This is an older one, so that's why it looks a bit busted up. Airbag mount have one that goes inwards. It's just a different design. And these will have the sheath over the top of them, which means the blue bag alone can go to 30 psi. With the Kevlar sheath over the top, they can go to 60 psi. And probably more recently on the market is the dash interlock. These are a much thicker walled. They go up to 70 psi. And the fitting, instead of having a push fitting on top, it's a braided gas fitting, which looks like that. Cup and ball scenario. When that goes on, that is going to screw on, not be pushed on, and never leak. Right, there's a fair bit of design that goes into these top hats too. In fact, 4x4 DNA were a part of the design process with Airbag Man in designing the top part here with a hole and 32mm hole, I think we did, with a chamfer on it, to make sure, because when these go into a Y62, they sort of have an arc to it and they point outwards, and now with that in there, we get less leaks. Same with the bottoms. A lot of pressure goes through the bottoms of these feet of the airbags. This particular one's an Airbag Man. There's a taper here to lock it into the lower control arm, and some other little positions like this. That's a hard plastic. Compared to the Dash Off-Road one, it's slightly rubberized plastic, and thicker walls through here. We've changed a couple of bits as well. And we changed the top hat too, made it rubberized, with that same sort of 32mm hole chamfer at the top there too. So all airbags aren't equal, trust me, there's a lot that goes into these things. So I'm going to talk about the different lines the different manufacturers use as well. I'm not going to say one's better than another, I'm just going to discuss them. So Polyair tends to use a rubberized line, so it's like got some flexi to it, if you can see that. Airbag Man, they use quite a hard plastic line with conduit over the top, which I think is quite good. And then Dash Off-Road, which I'm very biased, use a braided line with screws on the top. I guess what we're doing is thinking about heat with these vehicles. They're a hot petrol engine. We don't want things melting, and we want durability too, because there is movement as it goes through this top hole. The chassis occludes half of it, so we want that to go poke up and move away from the chassis, so it doesn't pinch the line. So we put out on the Y62 Patrol modified Facebook group. That's where all the cool people are. And advised that we're doing a video on everything you need to know about suspension or lifting a Y62, but specifically about airbags. So we're going to do frequently asked questions, and I thought we might get 5 questions, so we'd just answer them all, but we got like 55 questions and pages worth. So instead of answering every question that was asked, because there's questions about all sorts of things, I might categorise it, because there's going to be specific ones about airbags, and then there'll be some about, 4-inch lifts and other stuff. We'll do that at the end of each video. We'll have a FAQ section, so we'll get to that. So, all right.
Right, so you testing me here, or you want me to be...
You just tell the truth,
okay,
and the truth will set you free. All right. And there's so many questions here. You don't have to answer this one, but why is the driver's side 22mm lower with the lower control arm lift? We'll get to that when we get to the suspension stuff and the HPMC. Let's have a look. This one might be all right. What are the bad points, or why are core replacement bags not offered anymore? Maybe I'll touch on that one. But I guess that's a question about coil delete.
Well, no, that's not irrelevant.
No, it's not irrelevant.
You're going to get yourself in trouble.
Well, I'll talk without getting myself in trouble. I tried this. I found that it wasn't best for my setup. We installed a bunch of them, and now we've removed more than we've installed. So the coil deletes. So I know the question says here why, but it is a sensitive subject.
6.5 hours later.
And that's why we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here we go. What pressures to use? So this is a question from Greg Millen, rising contributor. Is A, B, C, D, E here. What pressures to use and why for each type of airbag, I guess they're saying.
Yep.
I'll let you do that one.
So if you've got the pressures have got to be held at a minimum of 10 psi to hold their shape. The reason we have 10 psi in the actual coil is to stop it chafing. So as you're going over the ruts and corrugations, the bag is not sitting in there moving up and down and chafing on the side of the spring. So that's the reason why it's got a minimum pressure. When you tow, it's a good idea to pump up your bags.
Oh, this is the next question. Practical example. Van hooked up before pressurising versus van hooked up after putting the pressure in.
Okay, so perfect. So what we found that if you go and put your van and put all of the tow ball weight on straight away, and then you go and pump up your bag, your spring is already compressed, and then you're pumping up the bag and it's filling out such a small area. But if you were to fill the bag up first at the larger coil gaps, and then you put your van on, it supported it better. So the last thing you want to do is have your bag pumped up after it's down, and then you can have your bag protrude through the coils and cause it to pinch.
It can be the difference between retaining your vehicle height or not, essentially.
And absolutely retains that vehicle height. So if I was to pump it up whilst the weight's on there, it's really not, it's going to be struggling. All it's going to be doing is just pushing out the actual coils. But if you pump it up first, it's at the full height, and then you put your van on, then you've got the full capability to get that height back.
I'm going to give you this one as well. Locations for the valves.
Locations for valves, easy and accessible. The person that doesn't go off-road is at the trailer plug on a TLR bracket or something like that. But what we like to do for the off-roaders to, do bottom out and go in the sand and dirt and so forth is put them up in the fuel cap.
Yep. Takes a bit extra time to...
Yeah, it's another half hour.
But I'll do this one. Can you add airbags to a Warrior model? You probably could, but I wouldn't want to. As I was showing in the video earlier, the gap between the coil is too big, and I reckon it would, prolapse that hinge out the side, and I can't see that being a long-term solution.
So we have done it in a couple of cars, and we've, So Melbourne have asked me if they could, give it a go and see what happens. The customer wanted to give it a go, which was Airbag Man with the sleeve.
Yeah.
But to put ours in there, definitely not.
Not the interlocks. I'm still dubious. I reckon if
I think so too. But
one exploded, you send it back to Airbag Man saying that it was in this coil with a gap that far in between it.
Yeah. I think if a customer was to sign a waiver and had the explanation and he was explained the opportunity, of something failing, as long as he's aware.
Do 35s fit on a stock patrol? No, we're not going to do that.
Hang on, I think I read that. Sign himself out? Is that what it says?
I'll leave now.
I did have a Google.
There's stuff about what height for Y62s, but we'll get that when we talk about the suspension more. Can I fit 35s when towing? Luke Patterson, very funny. Wheel alignments, I think that's another whole subject on its own. Same with the camber correction bushes and all that sort of thing. We'll get to that. There's some great resources on here that have answered the questions for us, which is nice too. Matt Jones, can you use standard height airbags in the standard Nissan coil? I put my opinion in the video. What do you think?
Oh, look, if you're, I've always said a funny sort of kilogram to Dave. I've always said sort of 150 ball weights max before you need to sort of start thinking about doing like a coil lift or putting a stronger toe coil in. So standard bags are designed for the soccer bum. It's a great car, it drives around, it's nice and floaty, it'll go everywhere, it'll do everything. But as soon as you put weight on the toe ball and putting a standard bag, it's not going to achieve anything. At the end of the day, you just put that much stress on that bag inside the coil because it's sunk down, it literally deforms the feet at the bottom of the lower control arms to the point where it just about spits them out.
And what I think happens is you can't retain the height, so that you put more pressure in, and that's like putting a brick in the coil, and that mashes that hockey puck at the bottom even more.
The hockey puck, yeah, that's
up until a point where that all gives up, and all the energy goes into the lower control arm, and you bust the lower control arm.
The standard springs for a standard vehicle that's just going to be used to drive around the city. We don't use them for that. We buy the car because we want to tow. Unfortunately, we have to upgrade them when we do that.
And for a few $100 for a tow coil, compared to bending a lower control arm, when you're towing in Broome, that's an expensive tow truck. All right, what else have we got here? Oh, there was a great one. Can you use interlock airbags for GVM upgrades? Now, I think I'll take this one. So going into Rover as we speak, which is like the Bible of anything that goes into a GVM upgraded for federal approval, is the interlock airbags right now. So they can be, if your state allows equal component to go into it, like South Australia, for example, they can be done straight away right now. If you're in a state, I think Queensland is one of them, where or Victoria, they don't accept an equal bag, they want the exact one listed. That at this minute isn't listed, but within days or weeks, you have the tick from Rover and it will be in there as well. Can you use interlock airbags with standard height? No. We're looking at developing, so we had to get a mould organised for the top and bottom of the airbag. We're going to try and get a mould from another type of airbag, which is smaller, and put on the top of our big one, and it'll be like somewhere in between standard height and raised. But at the moment, no, we don't have anything, sorry. I've been told you can't lift a Y62. Well, you can. There's many ways.
If you ever go to a place and they open up a brochure, right, and they turn the page over to have a look to see what springs suits your car, just walk out.
If you have to look in a book, you're in the wrong place.
You're in the wrong place.
All right, this person's got a GVM upgrade, but I've got a lifted vehicle, but they've looked at the part number. It says it's got a CR5119 HP airbag. I reckon that's that one where they put the block underneath.
That's correct. So it's a standard airbag with a 2-inch block that sits underneath.
Yeah. Which I don't think retains the height of the vehicle. It helps spring rate, but not gives the height back.
So what we found is with that block, apart from it floating around, was an issue where the bag was filling up only a certain section of that coil, and it was actually like coming out of the coil in the middle and really not pushing down. So you didn't actually get that like compressed air, like force up and down.
Laterally, not vertically.
Yeah, that's.
I know what you mean.
Perfect.
I've had both coil delete. Well, this person thinks coil delete's much better. I'd say that there's certain situations where the coil delete did give more comfort, like on our test track, and I went over the little yellow, I call them tic tacs in the middle of the road. The coil delete was beautiful for that, and the ride was excellent. But I've seen other cars where there's symptoms because there's more, if that's the front of the car, that's the back of the car, it provides more rebound. And so as you go over, you're cresting a hill or something like that, the front end goes up in the air, so the back gets squashed, so this airbag is like squished right down, and then when it tips over the crest, now we've got rebound, and that's pushing that up as far as you can, and on a Y62, it does that, smashes the HPMC on the front. So like that would be a scenario where it's not as good. Can I fit 35s in stock height? Thanks, Brett Baker. It's a new one. I'm laughing on the inside, trust me. Hi Dave and Steve, what airbags would you recommend for the 62 Warrior, and do I need to look at springs? I think we kind of covered that one. Yes, basically you need springs. Without bias, we'd tell you to put some Samurai rear coils in and some interlock airbags, and that will solve it, because I think it's a bit of a joke what Nissan have done with the Warrior, saying that it's got a
Progressive spring.
Progressive. It's like it's the same. I measured the wire. It's the same thickness of 19 mil as the standard springs. They've just like got ring jam at the bottom.
Yeah.
All right. That's the questions we're going to answer in this video, and I guess it wouldn't be as good a video unless people didn't write the questions in. So thank you. The ones that we didn't answer, we'll answer in the next few episodes when we talk about more GVMs, engineering, spring rates, low control arms lifts, all of that stuff.
That's going to be in depth.
Well, this one is out. See you next time on YouTube.
Yeah.